What you doing, Charlie?
Coloring.
What you coloring?
Can
you read it?
Color with princess.
Let's see. It says, Color with Grace, a daily Grace Code coloring book. And then you got your little lineup of snacks, huh? You got your smoothie, veggie straws. I made homemade sourdough chocolate chip cookies. And then fruit snacks, you can't have those. And a cookie. All right, well, you're doing good, babe. I'm going to go feed animals, okay?
Okay.
Okay, love you.
Love you.
Hey, friends. So the Daily Grace Company, which is a really cool company, actually, that I've bought stuff from for years, sent me this like really sweet care package with all these Bible studies and all this stuff for the kids, like these biblical coloring books. Like, it was just so sweet. Literally just kind of made my day. It came at just like the right time. But yeah, they have a lot of really cool Bible studies, Bible accessories, like stuff like that. So I'll find their link and tag them down below if you guys want to go check them out. I'm actually doing a Bible study with them, or I guess one that they offer right now, called The Character of God, and it really like dives into like who God is, and it's actually really cool. I totally got fogged up. I went inside and then came outside where it's nice and humid. We did have a massive rainstorm bring in some cooler temperatures, which I am so very thankful for. So this week we're supposed to have temps in like the 80s, which is really nice. Especially because tomorrow is a big harvesting day for me, a big seed starting day. We're going to do a whole nother round of preservation of canning food again tomorrow. So if I can get out here in the morning and not just be completely miserable harvesting, then that's kind of a win. All right, so this morning I am feeding animals, checking for eggs. So we've noticed a few things on our farm lately. One, our chickens aren't laying. And so we've been really trying to pay close attention to see if they're under any sort of stress. We're giving them water regularly. We feed them regularly. Like, I know in the winter time, our chickens don't lay consistently. But in the spring and the summer, we don't ever have any sort of problem. So we've been walking around seeing if they're laying somewhere else. Keeping eyes, see if we have a broody hen or anything like that. Or maybe it's just the stress of something. So I've got to feed pigs, I've got to feed chickens, dogs, goats, check to see if we have eggs, and then just kind of spend some time in the chicken coop, like evaluating what's going on. We've had some crazy things happen on our farm, and I'm going to talk to you guys about that, because this is just, Nathan and I are in this situation where it's a hard time being a homesteader. I know if you are a homesteader or farmer, you have those moments too on your farm where you're like, what on earth was I thinking? Like, I cannot believe that, one, this is what I do, because unless you farm or homestead, you just don't understand the problems that could arise on a farm or a homestead. And then they're always so unexpected. They're never anything that you can prepare yourself for. It changes all the time what those obstacles are that you come against. And so I'm just going to kind of talk through that with you guys and kind of how I'm handling it. Because things aren't perfect on our farm. Even though our lives are public and you guys can see what's going on, it doesn't mean that we always make the right decisions. It doesn't mean that we don't have hard decisions that have to be made on our farm. And it also just doesn't mean that we don't have a difficult time with some of those. And that's kind of the season I feel like I've been living in right now. And so I've just been like, okay, take a deep breath. Remember, take it day by day, and it's going to be okay. But right now, let's go feed Mama and her babies. All right, Mike Dixon, Farm Fit. It's a thing. I'm right there with you, buddy. I am actually incredibly thankful for the cooler tips, because we are just so behind on projects on our farm and cleanup on our farm. And it's been, over 100 degrees, and that's just, you're kind of limited on what you can do when it's that hot. So thankful for a good week. I feel like the story of my life right now is counting piglets. Anytime I come out here to either feed the pigs, water the pigs, just checking on the pigs, I'm always doing a piglet count, like a little mama bear. So Peppa, who is our breeder, is doing really good. Recently she had a litter. This was her first litter. We got her bred from a pig farmer locally, and it's been a wonderful experience. My husband Nathan handles most of our animals as far as like raising them and taking care of them. And so we are raising our own animals here. If you are new here, we have got pigs, chickens, goats, dogs. So we have our chickens for egg production. We have our dogs as guardians. Our goats we will breed this fall and kid in the spring, and they will be our milk production. And then our pigs we raise. We've got our breeder, and then we'll keep a couple of her piglets and feed them out. The interesting dynamic about my family is that I am plant-based, and so I don't like labels, right? I'm not vegan or vegetarian, and I really don't even like the idea of saying plant-based, but it is interesting that we grow a lot of our own animal protein, and I'm not consuming it. So what do I mean by plant-based? Primarily the bulk of my diet is just vegetables, which works out really well because I'm growing an abundant amount of vegetables. But we do have bees here on our farm. I use the honey in my coffee in the morning. Eggs are a major source of protein for me. We're buying our milk locally from a dairy right now. Once our goats are in production, we will have and drink our own goat's milk. So for me, it has nothing to do honestly with like the animal rights side of things. I do believe that we are given these animals for a purpose, and we should raise them well, treat them well. But if we are going to consume meat, anyone in my family, I want to know every single part of that process. I want to know what we're feeding them. I want to know how they're living. I want to know how they are harvested, like the whole 9 yards. So this is just a lifestyle that we feel suits our needs and our convictions as a family, but my body just thrives with more vegetables and less meat. So that's what I do. But we do have a wonderful breeder here, Peppa, who our kids love, and she's been a great asset to our farm. So we started off with a litter of 8. All the babies were healthy. They were wonderful. Well, then one day I came out here and noticed that the piggies weren't here. So we've got our farm kind of set up in paddocks. So we have our big raised bed area, and then we've got off of the raised bed our first paddock, which is about 1.5 acres, 2 acres. And it's where our chickens stay and where our dogs stay. And we have just recently moved goats into there to kind of help with the brush. Then we have another paddock where our feeder pigs go. And then we have another paddock, which is where Mama came to raise her babies. And then we have a few other paddocks. And so what we do is we just rotate our animals, minus the chickens and the dogs. So the goats and the pigs, they get rotated. That way they're continuously having fresh grass and things to eat. Well, Mama had broken down the fence to the next paddock. Why she did this, I don't know. So Nathan and I have quite a bit of work to do as far as repairing. And then we had noticed that the paddock that our feeder pigs are in, there's been chickens getting in there, and then we've noticed our dogs in there a few times. They've never done anything, so it was never really a concern. Well, when Mama got into the next paddock, we were counting babies, and we still had 8. Everything was good. We moved them over here and knew we were going to have to address that situation. The next morning, come out to feed, and we only have 7 piglets. We did a walkthrough, couldn't find the other piglet, had no idea what happened to that piglet. Really odd, because we do have guardian dogs. We don't deal with any sort of predator, not even like aerial predator. So you can see here we're nice and shaded. There's a lot of, really big trees, and the piglets are big enough at this point. We don't have to worry about a hawk or anything like that coming down. So just really bizarre to us that this piglet would go missing. So we've been thinking about it. We've been trying to figure out. We've just been keeping a really close eye on our animals. Obviously, we're raising these animals. We value their life, and we don't want to be losing animals like that. Over the weekend, I was outside on the phone with my sister, ironically, and I hear something wild. And I'm on the phone with her, and I'm like, "Do you hear this?" She's like, "What?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is not good." And so while I'm like FaceTiming her, I am like taking off running across our back porch and into our pasture. And I've noticed that our Great Pyrenees Simba, who we've had for about 4 years, has dug through the creek to get into the other paddock with our feeder pigs, which the little piggies can squeeze through the gate and get in there. He has got one of the piglets in his mouth. The 3 feeder pigs are surrounding him, like trying to protect the piglet. And Mama is trying to break down the fence to get in there. Just by telling this story, you can imagine how dramatic it is and traumatic it is. And I'm trying to think, like, I can't get in here because I've got 3 massive pigs who are in protective mode. I've got a dog who I've never seen. I mean, I've truly never experienced anything like this. I'm trying to talk with my dog. He's not paying attention. Like, he has the look to kill in his eyes. I've never seen anything like it. It's my 4 years of owning him. And I've got Mama trying to get in. So I'm calling Nathan. I'm like, I need help now, because I knew it wasn't safe for me to get in there with 3 massive hogs, a very aggressive dog, and the potential that Mama Pig could get in there at any point. It was the most bizarre thing, you guys, I've ever experienced being a homesteader and a farmer. And so thankfully, Nathan gets in there. We get the pig released back in with Mom. We get the dog put back in its area, repaired the broken fence that it came through, or like the fence that it did break. We treated the piglet. It had puncture wounds from when the dog had bit it, but it is happily back with Mama and thriving. But now we are left with this really hard situation, right? And that situation is, 1, did my Great Pyrenees kill the other piglet? And if that's the case, if you know anything about dogs, or even if you don't, you've heard once they kill, they'll always kill. And that is very true. Growing up, we had a dog that killed our chickens. And when it killed that first chicken, it kept killing that chicken and killing that chicken. And you'll hear a lot of older generation farmers tell you that if your dog kills that thing, you need to take it, tie it around its neck, and let it rot on the dog. And that will sometimes break them of that. There is 1, we couldn't find the first piglet. So that wasn't an option. And even 2, it's a little bit different with a pig. I don't think I would ever do that. I'm sure it worked. I'm not, questioning that it worked. But now we're left with this situation. Like, we have this great guard dog who has been a great guard dog for several years for our farm. Now here's the potential that, like, he's kind of gone like savage all of a sudden. And we're fearful that if he has tasted the blood once, is this going to continuously be a problem? Really hard. We love all of our animals here, even the ones that we harvest. Hey, piggies, come here, over here. Y'all eat. Have a good breakfast. Have a good breakfast. So it's hard, right? It's hard to know what to do in that situation. He hasn't messed with any of our chickens, so he is in with our chickens. Never been a problem, never killed a chicken. So what possessed him to go after this little piglet? I have no idea, but it is very concerning, very worrisome. So immediately we repaired the fence that he broke. I mean, we feed him every day. We give him water. Like, it's not like he did it out of this, like, oh, I'm hungry and I need food, which is why I think Nathan and I are kind of scratching our heads on, like, what could have possessed him to do this. He's always been the type of dog that you just didn't go and pet. When we first got him, he had never been around males, was super skittish. It was probably like a year or so before Nathan could even go up to him and pet him. So he always had that tendency of, like, he's kind of unpredictable, but as we had him over time, he became much better. Since moving here, you go in the chicken coop, he comes up, he lets you pet him. Overall, he's a pretty sweet dog. But I've never seen the look in his eyes like I saw yesterday. Like, I was fearful. I didn't trust getting in there, even if there had not been the other pigs in there and it would have just been him and the piglet. He had a look that scared me. So we are keeping a close eye on him while we try to work through and process what to do. I've watched him all day. He stayed up in his barn like he usually does. He has not even tried to get into the other pasture. We have it to where the babies can't get into the other field either. So at this point, we're just kind of waiting to see. But these are very common things that people deal with on homesteads. There are just so many things that come up on a farm that you cannot predict, and you have to kind of think fast in a lot of regards. Just as far as like, whoa, what are we gonna do? What if he does keep? Come on, Lily. Come on, get down, get down, get down. So there are a lot of things to think about as far as like, what does that look like? What do we do if he does continue to try to do this? So it's always something, y'all. Our little goat girls are good. Say, Simba hasn't messed with me at all, huh? No. Hey, Millie. It has got me to thinking, though, that maybe he is adding some sort of stress on the chickens, and that's why maybe they haven't been laying consistently. I don't know. There's literally so many different things that are coming through my mind right now. First and foremost, it's the safety of our other animals. Since that instance, Nathan came out here. He was stern with Simba, you know, and like he was yelling, and like our dog kind of cowered down and went up into his barn where he stays. He stays in a barn up there. And he's not come out. Like, he can freely come in and out, but I've not seen him mess with any other animals. He's been totally fine. So, like I said, at this point, I think we're just going to play it by ear and make sure we're keeping a close eye on those piglets and make sure that he can't get out. Kind of see what happens. All right, you girls enjoy. So I got the pigs fed, goats fed. Nathan had already fed the chickens and the dogs. I did peek into the chicken coop. There were a couple hens in the nesting boxes, but I didn't move them to see. So I'll just come check back this afternoon, see if we have any eggs. It's definitely been a stressful few days here on the farm. But I think one thing to kind of just remember too is, so one thing to remember, or this is something I tell myself, stressful situations are inevitable. It doesn't matter if you are farming, maybe you work in corporate America, maybe you are just, you know, a stay-at-home wife and homemaker. You're always gonna have those things, those situations that come up that are unexpected, that cause some sort of stress at the end of the day. And for me, with farming and homesteading, it's so unpredictable all the time. There can be those stressors, there can be an animal get hurt, there can be some sort of attack, whether that's from a different predator that's not on your farm. There's just so many things that could happen that for me, I always just try to tell myself is, how do I make the best out of this situation? How do I problem solve quickly? How do I think logically? And how do I think about long term? And so for me, yesterday, my heart was racing. I had all this anxiety and frustration and stress that I had to come and step back for a second, allow myself a minute to calm down so I could think logically. I had to figure out a solution to where the dog couldn't get into the one pig, the one pen, the pigs couldn't get through to the other pen. So we were problem solving. We were figuring out how to fix those situations. And now I have to think about the long-term effect, right? What does this look like for us if it happens again? And making sure that we just make the right call. And I think that many of us will go through similar situations on our farms, homesteads in our lives, where we have to do those things and evaluate those things. But right now, we are keeping an eye on it. He has not done it since then. We're being very, very mindful. We've done everything as far as putting precautions in place that we feel like we can. And we'll just keep you guys up to date. But I'm in here cooling off. I think I'm gonna hang out with this cool little cat over here. What you think?
Sure.
Sure? All right, guys, thanks for hanging out with me today. I'll talk to you soon.